This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 78, Why You Should Sweat the Details. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the place because I feel the same way. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you're new, or a better direction if you're already in the business, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com. Get over there and get your copy of it. Let's get started with this. Why you should sweat the details. I know there's a book out there somewhere that says, don't sweat the details. No, sweat the details. And what I mean by that is I espouse here a very particular philosophy that I think the reason small businesses, let alone real estate agencies, fail on a regular basis is because people do not manage the details. They do not sweat the little stuff. I always hear this put off, whether it's from top producers or newbie agents that say, well, I just want to sell something. I just want to sell a couple homes. And if I sell a couple, it doesn't work like that. I say this all the time. This is a business opportunity. It is not a job. So immediately when you become responsible for a small business, Michael Gerber gives the best advice. You have to think about it in three perspectives. One, yes, I get it. The entrepreneur who gets all excited to have a business for their own because they can't stand the boss anymore. They can't be told what to do anymore. So off they go to start this business. And then they run right out and start trying to do the technical work, or in our case, sell houses, list and sell houses, right? You're just going to run out and do that. Well, what about this middle layer of management? What about any semblance of a plan, an order of things, how things should be progressing? That is gone in your mind the minute you dismiss any sort of detail plan. Now, again, I know that planning, if you're like me, planning is a painful word. I remember when I first started in this business, I felt a responsibility, having come out of big business where we analyzed other businesses. Everything was about looking at income statements and plans and operating agreements, all these things that were components of the business. And here I was in small business wanting to get away from all that, but I knew something was scratching at the back of my head saying, hey, you can't just run away without a plan. You need to know what you're doing. Now, the difficult thing in our industry, or just in small business in general, unless it's a franchise already in place, already proven, already profitable, that's a lot of alreadys, you need to figure out how to plan, how to build a plan. And it turns out it's not so painful. Take it from me, after 20 years of trying to pound my way through the business, teach it for thousands of hours, I've begun to find a way that there is a process through which you can build and still sell from the beginning, just so I can satisfy both of your wants and your need, right? Your want is to sell houses, make money, cash flow. Your need is to build a plan. Let's try to pull these together. So my first point here is the small stuff makes up the big stuff. So it's really important to understand that that's why I'm making a big deal about details. Even if you're doing this intuitively when you begin, you're actually following a process. And if you've ever heard the Realty Classroom information before, or you've gone to the freeagentgift.com where the plan sits, it's a one-page infographic where I attempt to show you and prove to you, you can make the understanding of this business simple from all three perspectives: entrepreneur, manager, and technician or salesperson down the bottom. You can make it simple by what I call chunking it up. And most of you start in the detail end of things. In other words, well, how do I run an open house? What do I say when I go out to meet this seller? Those are a lot of details. But if you don't understand where they belong in the process of building a business, it gets confusing. So let's just suffice to say, we will get there. We will get to the small stuff. We will get to these little tiny details that make up almost everything. It's almost exasperating even to me. And I do this at a very, very deep level, meaning I just spend a lot of time teaching it, doing it as a broker owner, doing it as an agent. And every time I go to build a new micro plan, I scratch my head and I said, I can't believe I didn't memorialize this or that. So I get it. There's a ton of small stuff. And it makes you sweat. Forget about sweating it to pay attention to it. It just makes you sweat thinking about it. So let me help you with the second point here. Even though the small stuff makes up the big stuff, chunk the big rocks up first. That's the point here, right? We will get to the detail, but you have to chunk this big stuff up first. What do I mean? Stay with me from a manager's perspective. One of my coaching clients and longtime clients, Gail, she really gets this. She said, I always like your image, Danny, where you get up in this other room, this management room. And I always imagined it was like Henry Ford would have been up in this glass room with his fellow managers, looking down upon the technical work of assembling cars. So if you can get up above it, you can begin to see your business in sections. That's what I did. So when you look at the model that I built, for your understanding, it's not rocket science. It's not some major proprietary thing to me. It's just my perspective from getting up in the management room, looking down at the assembly line of how do we manufacture relationships that yield these sales. And so what I saw first was marketing. I always like Dan Kennedy's line that everybody's in the marketing business first, right? You have to let people that you don't know that you offer guidance to help them sell and buy real estate. You have to do that. So we're all forced into this understanding that the first module is marketing. Even in the very, very beginning, let's imagine if you're not new that you are, and if you are, this is the advice. I know everybody's going to tell you to run out and do this thing called SOI. Sphere of influence. You're just going to go out, find everybody that you know, let them all know that you're a realtor. That's fine. That's fine. But what I want you to do is understand that's marketing. Everybody's in that marketing message, which is the delivery of this message to the world or some subset thereof, some ideal clientele that you offer guidance in real estate. And so your job is to define where are these people? Not just the ones you already know inside the geography. Okay, not just those, but others that don't even know you at all yet. You have to consider both from the very beginning. So you start to think about those people in that way that you have to let them know that you have this guidance. Then you decide, well, how do I say it? How do I clarify that message concisely, simply? Don Miller, in his book Story Brand, he gets heavily into that, how we're just discombobulating this big, simple rock. I mean, I've been around programs where like the discussion of what makes you unique got so bizarre, I didn't even know how the consumer could even make heads or tails of what we were trying to say. So just say it simply to the right people, and then you have to decide on the right medium. You see what I mean? That's a big rock, simplified. Think about what I did. I took a big rock, marketing. It's the first module that needs to be managed to fill this pipeline up, to keep this business moving. That's it. And now the first level of detail is a simple triangle that I learned from Kennedy's book. Define the market, clarify and make the message concise, and then decide the medium upon which you want to deliver it. Is it the internet? Is it direct mail? Is it tele, right? On the phone? Is it door to door? Those are just decisions. So we have one big module and 3 points. You see, we're already moving in the direction of detailing out a plan. Next, okay, Danny, what happens next? Now here they come. Here comes who? Leads. What module do they belong in? Well, conversion. You see, really what we're gathering, even if it's our sphere of influence or we're finding new people, we're just gathering contact information at that point in time. So we've gone out, blown the foghorn in the big rock marketing. Next, the next one is conversion. Conversion of what? Conversion of the disposition of a contact. Let me explain. Pretty simple. So now I have big rock number 2, conversion module. And what happens in there is now I take a contact, and if I just have the contact information and I don't know a whole heck of a lot about them, then I'm going to call that disposition lead. That's all it is. A contact that is a lead is someone you really don't know much about their timing and motivation to buy or sell real estate. But as you begin to do certain things, and I won't get into the big details yet, they could move over to the next disposition, prospect, meaning there's actually a chance. You see, it's just a disposition that changes to prospect. And if you really nurture and help those people along the way, guess what they become? Clients. See, the contact moved along That's a big rock inside conversion, contact, moving along the assembly line, changing disposition. I don't know anything about them. I do, and they're willing to continue to talk to me. I really do, and now they have given me the chance to help them find the home or sell theirs. That's it. So here we go again, big rock number 2. And I just have 3 disposition changes. And of course, somebody could fall out. Contact information can fall out. Think about an assembly line. That produces waste, right? So out that waste goes. Now, those are your 2 driving forces. Now, of course, once somebody crosses out of that module, they go into the closing module. Now, I'm not going to get all into the details of closings, but just follow a contract. Those are all the deadlines and dates that need to be met. Critical dates and deadlines. They need to be met. So when somebody's in that module, somebody really has to sweat the details so that the deal doesn't blow up. So if you get some help in that, whole process, that's great. But let's just say the 3rd big chunk is this closing department. And that's just about the dates and deadlines that are outlined in the contract. Then ultimately you birth them into the final stage where they're past clients. And really, like I tell my coaching clients, hey, how about you just show up 4 times a year and tell them how the market's doing, right? Big rocks. You see what's happening? Now, let me just reiterate those chunked up big rocks. Marketing, okay? Inside of marketing, the first details we're sweating, choose the market first, clarify the message, then choose the media. Then as contacts come in, they go from lead somewhere in a database, even if it's wire racks. You make some conversation happen with them, primarily through the telephone, face-to-face, and they move over to prospect or they move out. Keep following up with those prospects. They move up to client or they move out. Once they're clients, everything goes well, they move over to a next module, the next big rock, and we sweat the critical dates and deadlines, and then they become a past client. We show up to say happy property anniversary once a year and 4 updates. Those are all big rocks, and I just want to scream that we just don't understand how simple it could be if we start there, okay? Now, let me get to the 3rd point here. Oftentimes, inside of those bigger chunks, we see these pathways begin to reveal themselves. Let me explain by going into the conversion module, because it was this week that I was talking to my mastermind group, and I actually managed my business transparently in front of them with both the person that does Autumn, that does the telemarketing, and Laura that manages the conversion module. And I sweat the details with them by pounding on simple labels. So you remember back in that conversion module where I say lead, prospect, client? I wanted to see specifically inside of one of our tools, Mojo Dialer, and then I wanted to see inside of one of our other tools, Infusionsoft, and I simply wanted to see if labels and segmentation of all these contacts matched. And they didn't. So it was quite easy, having established all these big rocks, lead, prospect, and client over in Infusionsoft, I was able to say, let's just fix these labels over here and duplicate them. So I sweat as the general manager of those 2, what was wrong, and it'll be fixed before next week. But all I had to do was rely on what I had already done in a big way to go yet another detail level. Now, if you want me to take you even deeper, I could go into, well, what are we saying to these contacts that are leads when we pick up the phone? Well, what's their context? Are they an expired listing, a for sale by owner? Somebody's died and there's a probate situation. Are they internet inquiries? What are they? Now we get into further detail, right? So what I did when we brought a second person recently in to this conversion module, first it was just Laura and I. Laura would do a lot of the follow-up. I would do the outside sales piece and the negotiation piece so that we could tip them over to closing, where we pass those off to another person who helps us sweat those details. But we needed help. And so we recognized that what was missing was more tele work. So we started to dive down into this pathway of telemarketing in this case, delivering a lot of free information to people who have contacts that we knew as leads to try to ingratiate ourselves so that we could have a new prospect. Get it? Pretty simple. But what I did was I didn't micromanage the details upon that person. I hired the right person with the right skill set for conversion on the phone. 30 years experience, and I got out of the way. I never forget Nito Cubain, who was the chairman of the Great Harvest Bread Company, talking about how he became the president of a college, chairman of a college. I can't remember exactly which one down in Charleston, South Carolina, but he let the kids walk across the grass in whatever direction they wanted until they had beaten a path, because that looked like the way that things actually flowed. Not the way everybody was trying to force it to work, but the way that it really worked. I love that. So I let my telemarketer loose with some general parameters. I would call them guardrails. Don't flip over the guardrails. Stay inside here. But let's see what this looks like. And all of a sudden, the conversion detail going deeper from just that bridge from lead to prospect, bringing them over that way, we found ourselves in there understanding what the consumer wanted. Like the students, they were beating their own pathway. And in fact, it was so dang simple. They really just wanted guidance. The same thing that we assumed they wanted, they did want it. And when we gave them what they wanted, pictures and details of properties, plus our guide, they actually raved about it. I know, stunning that the consumer would actually rave about assistance when delivered simply, because we listened and we let them walk in the grass until they showed us the path. That's when the next point comes in. That's when we capture it. We memorialize that. We bring the guardrails in around that, and we squeeze that down and say, well, there it is. That's what they want. So let's stop telling ourselves this nonsense and let's squeeze them into this path and let's refine it. Let's listen closer. What do they really want? Can we give it to them? Now we get into the pictures and details. We're like, well, wait a minute. If they want pictures, why do we only have 2? Let's put more pictures in there. And they raved some more. So we not only memorialized the steps, but once those guardrails came in and the consumer, our boss, our hero, was dictating to us, we beat on the craft even more. And we said, tell us more detail. But look where I'm at. I'm still in the conversion module. I'm still at one little bridge from lead to prospect. But now I'm having a conversation that leaves flexibility to the consumer hero to dictate to us where they'll beat the path and simply what we can do. And it's a head scratcher that it's that easy. So by going through this process, we were able to find these details and memorialize them. And now as we repeat them more and more and more, we're able to go to the next step. Great. Now when one of those people who has become a prospect because they liked what we said from lead to prospect, how do we get in there and turn them into a client? Well, we started to ask better questions. One little questionnaire, which helps us bridge the gap from prospect to client. We looked at that and we said, well, are we asking the right questions? Are these the questions they want to be asked? And that sounds crazy that you can actually think like that, but you can. Because when you ask the right questions, guess what people do? They read their minds out loud. They tell you what they want somebody to help them with. You don't have to guess. You don't have to beat on them. You have to listen. And now the details became clearer. And we memorialize them in a seller qualifying questionnaire. So you have a script now that's way down and detailed, right down to specific words that they like to hear, want to hear, that takes them from lead to prospect, and then a seller qualifying questionnaire that turns them from a prospect to a prospect plus, where we meet with them. And if we go through the right process in the house, you see where I'm going? I don't want to lose you on this detail here, but it's so exciting and easy. And I feel so in control talking about this. Finally, a process that allows me to manage without hunting for ideas and pasting them all over the place, so that when we come in, instead of looking like a refined assembly line, manufacturing relationships the right way that lead to a real estate sale, we're in this right order of things. And we can watch our assembly line, and it can speak to us with the consumer hero's voice. All right? So let me repeat these things. Why you should sweat the details is because it's the small stuff that actually makes up the big stuff. However, the second point is you can put the big chunky rocks in first. They're simple to understand. I just explained it to you. Go back and listen to this episode 3 or 4 times until you really hear me say you can chunk it up by modularizing it And this is the same business we all do. I didn't make this up. I just got up there like Henry Ford looking through the looking glass down at my assembly line and named the stages. Then you let those little micro pathways for the consumer hero to have a little bit of their own leeway, and you watch and go, okay, that's interesting. Inside my conversion module, they want to go this way, not the way I presume. Let me put guardrails up over here for myself and them. And then lastly, let me memorialize the steps that they like, and let me pound on them by going deeper and deeper and deeper. And deeper and deeper doesn't mean more complicated. It means simpler. You get to edit out the stuff that you thought was important that isn't, and put in the stuff that's actually quite simple. See, everybody wants to complicate this because they believe the consumer wants to see how smart you are, how long your resume is. Hogwash, man. It's just not the truth. Everybody wants the easy button. If you could make this process for the consumer easy, you're going to find a lot more people over in your client section of your conversion module jumping into your closing module. All right? So let me summarize the key point here. Sweating the details of how your business runs is the correct mindset to becoming a true and efficient manager. However, if you start with the big chunks first, you can build a foundation upon which you can more easily dive into the details that matter to the consumer hero and not those that waste your time. All right. Remember, you can take immediate action. Get started in the right direction if you're new, a better direction if you've been around a while. With our free simple business plan, it gives you this infographic so you can pin it up the wall. You can look at it while I'm talking through these podcasts. It's over at freeagentgift.com, freeagentgift.com. Don't act like you're above and beyond this, okay? I need this, and I spend my entire life dedicated to this body work. I need this podcast to remind me to stay inside my own guardrails that my system tells me work, okay? Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any of these insights each time we upload an episode. It's free ongoing training. We also broadcast our live sales training calls. You want to see me go detailed into some of those sales moments of telemarketing? Get on Facebook or YouTube every Friday at 1 ET Eastern Time. And remember, turn on those page and channel notifications for the Realty Classroom so those reminders pop up when you're doing what you're doing, okay? We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other entrepreneurial real estate agents just like you, because we want them to get the help. Push it out to them, all right? Hey, thanks for listening. And remember, nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your own business. I'll see you in the next episode.